Healing from a toxic mama is one of the hardest things that you will ever have to do in your whole entire life. Okay. Now, this story is about Tay and her toxic mama. Now, Tay and her mama had a toxic mother-daughter relationship. I'm talking about Tay's mama was so toxic that when Tay was younger, Tay's guidance counselor tried to put a restraining order on her mama. See, Tay was real close with her guidance counselor because she used to always talk to her guidance counselor about all the toxic stuff that her mama put her through. So one day when Tay go to school, she's crying and she don't want to go to class, so she go to her guidance counselor office. And she's crying because when she got on the school bus, all the kids was making fun of her hair. They was making fun of her hair because when Tay went to go visit her dad this past weekend, Tay's stepmom put braids in her hair. So when her mom saw the braids in her hair, her mom lost it. Now keep in mind, y'all, the sad part about it is, the reason why Tay's stepmom put braids in her hair in the first place is because the weekend before that, when Tay went to go visit her dad, when she came home, she got in trouble because she came home with a messy ponytail. So her mama was like, why you coming home all raggedy, looking all raggedy, just like your daddy? You know better than that. So she was on punishment. And her dad knew about that. So this time, before he sent her back home, he made sure she had her hair done. But when Tay mama saw those braids in her hair, she lost it. And she was like, why you let that lady play in your hair? You know better than that. That lady should have never touched your hair. So she started cutting the braids out. Now, keep in mind, there was extensions, so it was weave. But instead of her just cutting the weave out, oh, she was cutting most of Tay's hair with it. Yes. Yes, cut the girl hair off. So when Tay got on the school bus that next morning, all the kids was making fun of her hair. So once Tay told the guidance counselor that, the guidance counselor gave her a journal and said, you know, Tay, I want you to write your feelings in this journal. Like every day I want you to write how you feeling in this journal. And this will help you like understand your emotions better. And so Tay started doing just that. So Tay had this journal for about 6 months. And then one day when Tay's mom was going through her stuff, she finds this journal. And so she started reading this journal. And she read that the guidance counselor gave her the journal. And she read a lot of other stuff that Tay was talking to the guidance counselor about that she pretty much didn't like. So she go to the school and basically she get in the guidance counselor face. And she like, listen, why you trying to come between me and my daughter? This my child. I can do what I want when I want. This my child. You can't tell me what to do with her. You know, just going off the hinges. And so the principal hear this and the people in the office hear this. So they all run in the guidance counselor office and they trying to separate the two because the guidance counselor ain't backing down. The guidance counselor like, yeah, I said it, because she needs somebody to talk to because you're toxic and you don't need to be doing that. And she was like, if I could, I would get you in trouble. But unfortunately, you haven't done anything illegal. You just toxic, which should be illegal, but it's not. So the principal and everybody just like separate them. And so she was like, get my daughter down here right now. Give me my daughter down here right now. And so when they get Tay to the office, her mom pretty much withdraw her from that school. And y'all, that went on for the rest of Tay's childhood. Her mom was just toxic like that. Now, Tay do have an older sister, but Tay really didn't know her sister because her sister never came around. And I'm sure her sister never came around for the same reason why Tay don't like living with her mom, because she's toxic. By the time Tay turned 18, her and her dad relationship wasn't good at all. And their relationship wasn't good because her dad found out that she was dating older men. So anytime she would go visit her dad, they would argue the whole time because he didn't want her dating these older men. And Tay and her mom relationship, oh, it was worse than ever. Because once her mom found out that she was dating older men, she told Tay, I don't trust you around my man, so you're not going to be in my house when I'm not home. So Tay's like, Mom, I don't want to date your boyfriend. I look at him like a stepdad, and I love you. I would never do that. Why would you think that? And she was like, no, 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 no. I know you're dating older men, and I don't trust you around my man, so you're not going to be in my house. So Tay's like, Mom, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? She was like, I don't know. Figure it out. You're around here dating older men. You can figure it out. Now, keep in mind, y'all, Tay's mom is gone for majority of the day. And sometimes she don't come home till late at night. So during all those times, her mom would straight up lock her out with nowhere to go. But there was nothing Tay could do about it because her mom didn't trust her around her man. And the worst part about it is when Tay was allowed to be in the house when her mom was home, if Tay's mom's boyfriend was there, she wasn't allowed to be outside her room. She had to stay in her room the whole time. So one day Tay was in her room and she was in her room all day long because her mom's boyfriend was there, which he's there majority of the time. But she was hungry. She was thirsty. She wanted something to eat. So she came downstairs to fix her something to eat, get something to drink. Once her mom heard her in the kitchen, she came in there and she snaps on Tay. She was like, oh, do you think I'm somebody to play with? Like, are you trying to take my man? What did I tell you about coming out your room when he's here? So Tay was fed up at this point, and so she just started telling her mom exactly how she feels. She was like, Mom, I love you. I would never do that to you. Why do you think I would want to date your man? I told you I look at him like a stepdad. I would never want to do that. So Tay's mom's like, no, 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 no. You dating older men. I don't trust you around my man. You too fast. I don't want you around my man at all. So Tay is like, Mom, why are you doing this to me? Why are you picking him over me? I'm your daughter. I'm your flesh and blood. Don't you love me? Now, once Tay's mom boyfriend hear this, he comes in the kitchen and he's like, wait, what's going on? He said, listen, I didn't know anything about this. And so he starts apologizing to Tay. He said, baby, I don't want you on the streets like that. He said, I never knew. That's why you never came inside the house when I was here. He said, listen, I won't come over here until your mom come home because I don't want you on the streets like that. And he said, matter of fact, I won't come over here until you sleep because this your house. You deserve to be able to roam around your house as you please. So basically, he starts going in on Tay's mom, and he's like, that's wrong. You shouldn't treat your daughter like that. That's wrong. And so now Tay's mom, being the toxic person that she is, oh, she snaps on both of them. And she's like, why you taking up for her? You must do want to be with her. Do y'all got something going on that I don't know about? This can't be real. Like, y'all need to tell me what it is. And he was like, you know what? You crazy. You delusional. I'm out of here. So he leaves and he walks out. And now Tay's standing there crying because she can't believe what just happened. And so once he leaves, Tay mom says, you got to get out of here. You got to leave. I can't trust you. This all your fault. Now you messing with my man. You doing all this. And Tay was like, Mom, I swear to God, I didn't do anything. I would never date your boyfriend. I would never do that. Why do I got to leave? And she was begging her mom because her mom is kicking her out at this point. So the whole time she's standing there crying, begging her mom, please, Mom, I have nowhere to go. Her mom has went to Tay's room, started grabbing all her stuff and throwing it outside on the front yard. So Tay was like, Mom, please, please. She's begging her mom. And eventually Tay realized that her mom is not going to change her mind. So she starts crying. She dropped her head. She walked outside and she just started picking up her stuff off the ground. And she sat on the porch and she starts crying. Every 5 minutes, her mom would peek her head out the door. You need to find you somewhere to go. You can't be in my house. I'm tired of you. So Tay is just sitting there crying at this point. She don't know what to do. So she did the only thing she know to do. She called one of the older men that she was dating, John, because she knew that John would come pick her up. Now, Tay also knew that she could call her dad. But Tay was so hurt at the moment, and she was so broken, she just didn't feel like having no more rejection. And she knew that John would come and pick her up and ask no questions. And sure enough, when she called John, and she's crying uncontrollably. She's crying. Not one time do John ask her what's wrong. When Tay said, John, come pick me up, the only thing that John say is, I'm glad you thought of me. I told you I will always be there for you. I'm on my way. So John finally shows up to pick her up, and she gets in the truck with John. Soon as she get in the truck with John, John starts telling her, you know, you can stay with me as long as you want to. I always told you that I'll take care of you. You know, your mom don't love you. She don't deserve you because she should never treat you that way. Your dad don't love you. He don't deserve you because he walked out of your life. But I'm going to be here to the end. You can stay with me as long as you want. Don't worry about it. I told you I'm going to take care of you, and I meant just that. So Tay is crying, and she's like, John, you know, I'm not trying to move in with you. I just need to stay with you for a couple days to give my mom time enough to cool down, and then I'm going to go back home. So John's like, okay, cool, but I'm telling you, you can stay with me as long as you want. I told you I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to do just that. So Tay go stay with John, and after a couple days, she started calling her mom because she's ready to go home. And she's really getting tired of being at John because John keeps stressing her to be in a relationship. So she's calling her mom repeatedly, and her mom's not answering. So she decides just to show up at home. So soon as she get home, she walk in the door, she see her mom sitting on the couch drinking a bottle of wine, and her mom's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, Mom, I'm coming home. I miss you. I'm tired of being at John's house. Like, can you forgive me? I don't know what I did wrong, but I'm sorry. I love you. I would never hurt you. And her mom's like, no. You ruined my life. It's because of you I don't got a man. He think I'm a bad person because of all the lies you told. You told those lies. You made me lose my man while you run to the arms of another man. And so Tay's like, Mom, but I didn't tell any lies. I only said what was really happening. I only said what was really going on. And she was like, no, no, no. Go be with John. You was dealing with John before this. You can be with John after this. So when her mom tell her that, she looks at her mom with tears in her eyes and she's crying. She said, Mom, please, I don't want to go to John's house. Can I please come back home? I would never try to date your boyfriend. I would never try to break you and your boyfriend up. I'm sorry. I'll do whatever. I'll tell him I was lying. I'll say whatever you want me to say. Just let me come back home. And her mom said, nope, 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 nope. You've been dealing with John this long. You can deal with him now. And so she just turned around and she walks out and she's crying. So now she's walking down the road. She don't know where she's going to go. She just knows she don't want to go to John's house because she's going to have to be in a relationship with John. So as she's crying and walking, she thought about her older sister. So then that gave her an idea. Let me call my older sister. I'm sure I can go stay with her. Now keep in mind, she really don't know her older sister like that because her older sister don't come around like that. I mean, her older sister's about 10 years older than her. In her whole life, she probably saw her older sister about 4 times. But she knew that if she called her older sister, that she can go stay with her older sister. Because the last time she saw her older sister told her, if you ever need anything, call me. I'll be there for you. So this was the time she needed to make that call. So she go to the library, she get online, and she start inboxing her sister because she don't have her sister number. So eventually, after a couple hours, her sister finally texts her back, and she texts her number. She was like, yes. So she immediately called her sister, and she tell her sister what's going on. And once she told Shay everything that was going on, Shay was like, Tay, it's no surprise. Mom a lunatic. She's delusional. She was like, that's why I left home when I was 16. And she was like, to be honest, you don't want to go back to Mom's house because Mom is a lunatic and she's never going to change. So Tay was like, well, yeah, I agree with you, but the problem is I don't have nowhere to go right now. And I don't want to go back to John's house. So can I come stay with you? And Shay was like, yeah, no problem. You can come stay with me. But before I pick you up, let me talk to my husband about it just to, fill him in on everything that's going on. So Tay was like, hey, no problem. I'm at the library. As soon as you get done talking to him, I'm going to wait right here. I'm not going anywhere. Just come pick me up. Thank you, sister. I love you. I love you. I love you. So they said their goodbyes. And so she was sitting at the library. She was waiting. She was waiting. 2 hours go by. She's waiting. 3 hours go by. She waiting. 4 hours go by. Now she getting kind of worried. And finally, the 5th hour, Shay finally called her back. And when her phone rang and she answered, she was like, thank you. Thank God you called back, Shay. I didn't know what I was going to do. Thank God. I love you, sister. Thank you. I'm still at the library. Just come pick me up. I'm waiting. And her sister said, I'm not coming to pick you up. She was like, you're not coming to pick me up. What's going on? And she said, I talked to my husband, and he don't think it's a good idea if I come pick you up right now because, we got kids. We got 3 kids, Tay. And basically, he don't think it'll be a good idea if you come over here and bring all that drama that you and Mama going through. That's not good for our kids. And so, really, it's not a good idea that you come stay with us right now. So Tay couldn't believe it. She was like, Shay, are you kidding me? Like, what have I ever did wrong to your husband? I never did anything wrong to him. I never did anything wrong to you. I never did anything wrong to your kids. I swear I won't talk to Mom at all. I won't even let Mom know that I'm staying with you. Like, please just come pick me up. I don't want to go to John's house. And Shay still refused to let her sister come there. Shay was like, listen, Tay, you have to understand, this is my husband. When I was on the streets, when I was at 16 years old, my husband took me in and we built a life together. And now we have 3 kids and I have to respect what my husband say. I can't come pick you up. I'm sorry, Tay. Just go back to John's house. It'll work out. It'll all work out for the better. So by this point, Tay just hung up the phone on her sister and she stood there and she cried. She cried for like 3 hours because she knows the only person she got is John. Because John, the only person that's going to let her come stay there. So after she cried for 3 hours, she walks back to John's house and she knocked on the door. And John answered the door. And when he answered the door, he answered it with a smirk. He said, I forgive you. And she said, you forgive me? What are you talking about, John? What do you forgive me for? He said, I forgive you for running out on me. I forgive you for taking my love for granted. I forgive you for, just using and abusing me and getting what you wanted and run off. I forgive you. Now, even though Tay knew that John was wrong for that, she didn't want to argue and she needed a place to stay. So she just said, thank you, John, and went inside. Now, for the first 2 weeks that she was living with John, everything was going good. She was able to get her a job at a nice hotel. She was working as a receptionist. And basically, that was her plan, that she was going to work as many hours as she could, save her money so that she can get her own place, and then she didn't have to deal with John anymore. But the problem came in is when she switched her shift from day shift to night shift. Because, see, Tay really didn't want to deal with John that much because she really didn't want to be with John. So she figured if she switched to night shift, she wouldn't have to deal with John as much. Because while John was at work during the day, she'll be asleep. And when John is at home at night, she'll be at work. So that was working for her pretty good. But that's when things took a turn for the worse, because John didn't like the fact that Tay was working night shift. Why? Because he didn't get to see her as often. But Tay really didn't care because that was the plan. So John used to always try to get her to quit her job. And the more and more that she wouldn't quit her job, he became more and more controlling. And he became more and more aggressive. And he actually started physically abusing her. So Tay started working as many hours as she could. She started working doubles and triples if she could, because she just didn't want to be around John. So one day John come home from work early, and he, gives her an ultimatum like, you need to quit your job or you can't be here. And she was like, well, John, I can't quit my job. I need to work there for a couple of days so they can find somebody new. So basically she went to work and ignored what John was saying. And so after she had been at work for a couple hours, she was actually hanging out at the front desk doing her job, and she was talking to one of the guests that was there, because one of the guests had came down to get some extra towels. So they were talking, joking around while they was waiting on the housekeeper to bring the extra towels to the guests. So as this was going on, John walked into the hotel lobby. Everybody can smell the alcohol on his breath. He was like totally intoxicated. So he go to screaming, oh, is this the guy you cheating on me with? Is this the reason why you want to work night shift? And so Tay's like, John, calm down. He's a customer here. He's a guest. He got a room here. So John like, no, if he got a room here, where his bags at? Why he don't got his bags? So Tay was like, John, you need to calm down. It's not like that. And so by this time, John is looking at the guy who's standing at the desk, and he gets in his face. And he like, what are you going to do about it? You think it's cool to try to steal someone's girl? You think it's cool to try to steal someone's girl? So Tay comes from around the counter, and she stands between John and this guest. And she says, John, you need to leave him alone, and you need to leave. Like, we'll talk about it when I get home, but this is not the time. So he was like, yeah, you're right. I do need to come home, and you coming with me. So once he said that, the guest that was standing at the counter, he moved in front of Tay, and now he's standing between John and Tay. And he was like, matter of fact, you need to leave by yourself. She's not going with you. She told you no, you need to leave. And so John just stood there and stared at him for like 5 seconds. And that man stared at him back. He said, leave now. And so John was like, you know what? Screw it. You can have her. She's trash. She's trash. She's trash. And so by this time, Tay is crying. Not to mention she embarrassed, because as all of this was going on, you had some guests that walked into the lobby that was trying to check into the hotel. You had the housekeeper that came with the towels that was trying to get them the towels, and everybody saw everything. So Tay was just crying, and she went back to the register, and as she pulled herself together, she checked the guest in and gave them that key to the room. So once she gave the guest the key to the room, she noticed that the one guest that was waiting for the towels was still standing there after he got the towels. And so Tay's like, listen, sir, I'm sorry. I never meant for that to happen. I apologize. I'm sorry you had to witness that. Like, please forgive me. I really didn't mean for that to happen. And so he was like, I'm not sorry that it happened. And he said, matter of fact, I'm glad that I was here, because who knows what he would have did if I wasn't here. And so Tay's like, no, it's really not that bad. He wasn't going to do anything. He wasn't going to do anything. And she was like, thank you. I thank you for taking up for me. I thank you. And so she was like, I'm sorry that happened. If you need anything else, just call the front desk and I'll help you. He was like, no, I'm not going nowhere. He said, I'm going to stay here with you in case he come back. And Tay was like, he's not going to come back. Trust me. He's just waiting on me to get home. He's waiting on me to get home. He's not going to come back up here. And the guy said, and you need to make him wait a lifetime, because that guy don't deserve you. So he said, hey, my name is Davey. What's your name? And that guy did just that. He stayed there the whole night with her to make sure that John didn't come back. And during that whole night, they talked, and Tay told him everything that was going on in her life. Talking about how her mom kicked her out, how her dad stopped talking to her, how her sister didn't let her stay there. She told him everything. And by this time, it was like 30 minutes before her shift was over. And Davey asked her, he said, how much time do you need? And Tay said, how much time do I need? He said, yeah, how much time do you need? You told me that you were saving up money to get your own place. And how much more time do you need before you have enough money saved up till you'll be able to get your own place? She said, well, like a month and a half, give or take, you know. All I got to do is make it through a month and a half and I'll be fine. And he said, here, I'll pay for a room for you 2 months. Put it on my credit card. And Tay was like, put it on your credit card? I can't do that. I can't do that. He said, put it on my credit card. He said, I can write it off as a business expense. Put it on my card. So Tay was like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. She was like, you don't even know me. Why would you do that for me? You don't know me. He said, I don't need to know you. He said, I know my mother. He said, my whole childhood, I grew up, my mom was in an abusive relationship. And all my mom needed was somebody to help her out. Help her save money just a couple months so she didn't have to depend on the man that was abusing her. Put it on my credit card. So Tay was crying. She couldn't believe it. She's like, is this a dream? Is this happening? And so sure enough, when she put it on his card and she handed the card back, when he grabbed the card, he said, promise me one thing. And Tay said, what? He said, I want you to make him wait a lifetime. Don't ever step foot back in that house again. For the first time, she was crying tears of joy because she didn't have to deal with her mom being toxic towards her. She didn't have to deal with John trying to pressure her to be in a relationship. She didn't have to beg her sister for a place to stay. She just couldn't believe it. She got in that room and she walked around and she was just happy. She was happy. And for the first time after many, many years, she went to sleep with a smile on her face, knowing that everything was going to be okay. But that sleep didn't last long because soon as she got into a deep sleep, she heard someone knocking real hard on the door. Bum, 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 bum. So she wake up and she run to the door and it's the hotel manager. And she like, hey. And he's like, hey, what are you doing here? And she was like, I got a room here. What do you mean, what am I doing here? He was like, okay. He was like, well, hey, I need to talk to you in the office. Come downstairs. And she was like, well, what time is it? It's not time for me to go to work. I just went to sleep. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's like 10 a.m. But come talk to me real quick. I need to talk to you about something. So she was like, okay. She didn't think nothing of it because really she thought, you know, basically it's about the incident that happened. So she knew she was going to have to explain herself sooner than later. So she got dressed. She went downstairs. As soon as she walked in the manager's office, she noticed that the lady from HR was in the manager's office too. So she sit down. As soon as she sit down, the manager started telling her, well, you know, we got a lot of complaints from last night. You know, tell me, what was that incident all about? So she explained to them everything that happened. And she reassured them, like, you know, that's never going to happen again. I don't deal with that guy anymore. Like, he's not going to come back up here. I'm sorry that happened. So once she explained what happened, HR and the manager just stared at each other. And so after that, so HR asked her, she was like, well, there's another incident that we have to talk to you about as well. And she was like, what? What now? What happened? She's thinking maybe John came back. Maybe John did something. But no, HR was like, well, we kind of find it kind of strange that you paid for a hotel for 2 months on a credit card that's owned by one of the guests that stay here. And she was like, oh, that's Davey. That's Davey. He paid for the room. That was the guy that was in the office with me when John came. And, you know, he helped me deal with that situation. That's Davey. And so HR and the manager just looked at each other. And so the manager was like, well, at this time, you know, with everything that's going on, you know, you're really not a good fit for this hotel. It's not a good look, so we're going to have to let you go. So now she freaking out. And she like, listen, you know me. I would never steal. I would never steal. I would never do anything like that. And I promise you, John is not coming back. So HR was like, yeah, it's just not a good fit right now. So she couldn't believe it. So now she's crying again. She's crying. And she was like, well, what am I supposed to do? I really don't have nowhere to go. And he was like, well, that's really not our problem, but you need to give us your work badge. Oh, and you need to give us the key to that room too. And she was like, the key to my room? Why do I need to give you the key to my room? And so HR was like, until we get a clear understanding of what's going on with that room, you're not allowed to go back up there. And she was like, I'm not allowed to go back up there. And they was like, no, you're not allowed to go back up there. We need your badge. We need the key to the room. And basically you need to leave. So she sat there, she crying, she walked out the office, and now she's just sitting in the lobby, she's crying. After 10 minutes of sitting in the lobby and crying, the manager come there and say, hey, you need to leave the premises. She was like, leave the premises? I don't got nowhere to go. I can't even sit here and wait on David to come back. And he was like, no, you need to leave the premises or I'm going to call the police. So she get up and she walk across the street to a Burger King, and basically she go in Burger King and she sit next to a window. She sit next to a window to where she can stare out of this window, because basically the only thing she can do is wait for Davy to come back to this hotel. Finally, she see an Uber pull up, and there go Davy getting outside of the Uber. Now mind y'all, she across the street at the Burger King, and it's a major intersection right there, but this lady don't care. She jumped out of her seat and she started running across that intersection. She didn't even look to the left, look to the right. She just running. Davy, Davy, Davy. She's calling Davy, screaming, because she don't know what room Davy in. She knows she need to get Davy to stop right now before he get in that hotel. So she's running. You got cars slamming on brakes, the honking their horn, She just running, Davy, Davy, Davy. Davy hear all the commotion going on, so he turned around and he like, Tay? And so by Tay reaching, by this time Tay out of breath. She's like, Davy, I'm glad you stopped. And he's like, Tay, calm down. Are you okay? What's wrong? And she was like, Davy, they kicked me out the room. They fired me. They kicked me out the room. They think I stole your credit card. Oh, Davy, I'm glad you came. I didn't know what I was going to do. So he was like, they did what? And she said, yeah, they kicked me out the room. They think I stole your credit card. And he was like, come in here with me right now. We'll handle this. And she was like, no, I can't go in, because they told me if I go in, they're going to call the police on me. They don't want me on the premises. So David said, no, come in here. You're coming with me. Let's go. So they walk into the hotel. Once they walk into the hotel, it's this random dude. He working at the desk. So David said, let me speak to your manager right now, please. And so the guy was like, sir, my manager is busy. Whatever you need, I can help you with it. He said, do you know who I am? He said, I'm an owner of a Fortune 500 company. My company spend over $500,000 with this company every single year, because all my employees that travel throughout this town stays at this hotel. So if you don't get me your manager at this front desk in about 2.2 seconds, it's going to be some problems. So the guy was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Let me go get him. And the same manager that fired her was the same manager that walked out of that door. And when he saw Tay standing next to Davy, the look on his face, he knew he messed up. So he was like, Mr. Davy, how may I help you? And so he said, the first thing I want to know is why you kicked her out the room. And he was like, Mr. Davy, I can explain. He was like, no, I don't need you to explain nothing. The first thing I need you to do is give her key back. So the manager like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And David was like, save it. He said, the only thing I want to know from you right now is my employees going to be safe staying at this hotel? Because this young lady was almost assaulted in your hotel last night. And where's your security? You had no security in this hotel. No security at all in this hotel. So how do I know that my employee is going to be safe if they come and stay here? And so the manager was like, trust me, Mr. David, we know, we looked at the cameras, we got security is going to be here. So as he trying to explain to Davey like that his employee is going to be safe, the other guy that was standing at the front desk, he gave Tay her key back. And as soon as the guy gave Tay the key back, Davey said, come on, Tay, let's go. And they left. And they left the manager talking there in mid-sentence. He didn't want to hear nothing the manager had to say. So they get on the elevator, and basically he walking Tay to her room. And while they was on the elevator, Tay was like, David, thank God you came back. I just want to thank you. I can't thank you enough. I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought I was going to have to go back to John house. And he looked at Tay. He said, no. He said, remember your promise you made me? Remember you promised me that you was going to make that guy wait a lifetime before you ever walk back in his house. Never step foot in that house again. He said, you know, Tay, you a smart woman. And he said, I got this hotel for you because I know you a smart woman. He said, but the one thing that you failing to understand is where you're going is in front of you. It's never behind you. No matter what you go through, don't look back. And she was like, you're right, David. Don't look back. Don't look back. I'm not looking back, David. Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm never looking back. I'm never looking back. So they finally got to the floor that Tay was on. He walked Tay to the room. And when they got to the room, Tay gave him a hug. She was like, thank you, David. I never had nobody be this nice to me. And she tried to give David a kiss, but David turned away. And she was like, I'm sorry, David. Do you want to come in my room? And he said, no, I don't want to come in your room because I'm married and that'd be disrespectful to my wife. And she was like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know. He was like, don't worry about it. Only thing I want you to do for me is never step foot in that house again. And she was like, never look back. And he said, never look back. and he was gone. The next day, Tay woke up and she was more focused and motivated than she had ever been. She started looking for a job, and within a week, she had a new job at a different hotel making more money than she made at the last one. And she also enrolled in nursing school. And she kept the promise that she made to Davy, because in 2 months, when it was time for her to move out that hotel, she had enough money saved up to get her own place. And she never stepped foot inside of John's house ever again. And when she was in nursing school, that's where she met her husband. Fast forward 10 years later, she's now divorced with a 10-year-old daughter. Unfortunately, after 8 years of being together, her and her husband got a divorce because her husband just kept cheating on her, basically. And eventually, she just had to divorce him, because as much as she tried to keep the family together and make things work, he eventually got someone else pregnant and pretty much left her. So she pretty much had to divorce him. And for the past 2 years, her and her ex-husband shared custody of their daughter. Now, as much as she thought that she was hiding her feelings away from her daughter, she quickly realized that she wasn't. Because when her daughter was 10 years old, it had been 2 years since she was going to visit her dad. And every weekend, she never made it a problem. She always got her daughter ready to visit her dad, and she always encouraged her daughter to go visit her dad. But when her daughter was 10, her daughter said, "Mom, I don't want to go visit Dad this weekend." And she said, "Why, baby? Daddy is excited to see you." And she said, "No, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Don't make me go." And so now she's getting concerned, because she's like, "Well, why don't you want to go visit your dad? You've been visiting him the past 2 years, and it's been fun. Why don't you want to go?" And she said, "Well, Mommy, if I don't love Daddy and I don't go visit him, would you be happy again?" And so her mom looked at her and she said, "Baby, I'm happy now." And she said, "No, no, 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 you're not happy." She said, "I could tell, Mom, you're not happy." She said, "Every time I'm getting ready to go to Daddy's house, you're sad. You're sad. And every time Daddy come pick me up, you never say anything to him. You never talk to him. You just stare at him and you give him that you in trouble look. You know, the same look you give me when I'm in trouble, when I did something wrong. You just look at him that way, but you never talk to him. Mommy, I don't want to go visit Daddy because I want you to be happy." And she just couldn't believe it. As much as she thought she was hiding her emotions and her true feelings away from her daughter saw straight through her. So she sat her daughter down and she said, "Baby, I'm sorry. Can you please forgive Mommy? I don't ever want you to have to choose between me or your dad." She said, "Your dad loves you and I love you. Baby, you can go have fun with your dad. It doesn't make me sad, I promise." And she said, "Baby, can you forgive me? Can you please forgive me, baby? I'm so sorry. I don't want you to feel that way." And her daughter looked at her and her daughter said, "It's okay, Mommy. It's your first time." And she said, "It's my first time? What do you mean it's my first time?" And her daughter said, "Cuz Daddy always tell me you only get one life to live, so you better live it to the fullest. And every time I try something new and I make a mistake, you always tell me, 'It's okay, baby. It's your first time. You will get better the more you practice it. So, Mommy, you only got one life to live. It's your first time. And it's okay because you will get better as you practice it.'" And when her daughter told her that, it brought tears to her eyes. But she fought back the tears because she didn't want to associate pain with her daughter going to visit her dad. So she fought back the tears. And for the first time in 2 years, when her dad came to pick her up, she walked her daughter to the door. And she spoke to her ex-husband. She said, "Hey, Ronnie, how you doing today? Nice to see you." And she was smiling. And her ex-husband couldn't believe it because it was the first time in 2 years that she had ever said anything to him. The first time in 2 years that he ever saw her smile. And he was smiling. He said, "I'm doing good, Tay. How you doing? Nice to see you." And her daughter was standing there looking at her dad, looking at her mom, smiling. And she said, "Okay, y'all have fun. See you later." And when she went back in the house, she just started crying. She started crying uncontrollably. She had not cried like that in 10 years. She hadn't cried that cry. But she couldn't help it. All her emotions came back. And after she cried for 3 hours, y'all, keep in mind, she haven't talked to her mom, her sister, or her dad in 10 years. But after she cried for 3 hours uncontrollably, she picked up the phone and she called her mom. And her mom, being the toxic person that she is, when she said hello, she said, "Wow, you just called me after 10 years. Who died? Because you act like I don't exist in your life no more." And Tay said, "Mom, I forgive you. I'm sorry. It's your first time. And her mama said, "Oh, you don't know how long I've been waiting to hear that apology, girl. I knew all it would take was for you to have your own child, and you will finally see everything I ever did for you is because I love you. About time you apologize to me. Woo-woo." And Tay said, "Mom, I'm not apologizing to you because I did something wrong. I'm apologizing for you, and I forgive you because I need to do that in order for me to love my daughter better than the way you loved me." She said, "Mama, no. I still think you treated me wrong. But I forgive you because I need to be able to show my daughter the love that you didn't show me." And her mama said, "Well, speaking of my granddaughter, where she at? Because I ain't never seen my granddaughter face to face. It's been 10 years. And Tay said, "Mom, you know what? I'm having to get together on Friday. You're more than welcome to come to my house. I'll send you my address." Her mama said, "Well, by the time I get your address too." And she clicked. She just hung up on her mama because her mama toxic. And her mama never going to change. So she had to hang up on her. And after she hung up the phone with her mama, she picked up the phone and she called her dad. And when her dad answered that phone, and she said, "Hey, Dad." He said, "Tay? Tay, is that you?" She said, "Yeah, Dad, this is me." And her daddy started crying. He said, "Baby, I'm so sorry, baby. You have no idea how long I've been waiting for your call." He said, "Baby, I'm so sorry." He said, "Baby, I should have did more. I should have tried more." He said, "Baby, I'm sorry. Can you please forgive me?" Tay said, "Dad, I forgive you. It's your first time." He said, "Thank God you forgive me. You have no idea how long I've been waiting to hear those words." She said, "Dad, it's your first time. Don't worry about it." And he said, "Baby, what you mean it's my first time?" She said, "Dad, we only live once. This your first time living. You're going to make mistakes, but it'll get better the more you practice it." And he said, "Oh, baby, you have no idea the weight that's lifted off my shoulders, baby." He said, "I'm so sorry." He said, "You right, baby." She said, "I'm so sorry." And she stayed on the phone and she talked to her dad for like an hour. And she invited her dad to her house for the little get-together she was having on Friday. Her dad said, "Baby, I will be there. I will be there. You just give me a time and an address and I will be there. And I want to meet my grandbaby." And he said, "If you need anything else before that, call my phone. And your daddy going to be here for you, baby." After she hung up with her dad, she picked up the phone and she called her sister. And her sister answered the phone and she said, "Hey, Shay, how you doing?" Her sister said, "Tay, is that you? My one and only sister, Tay? Is that you?" She said, "It's me, Shay. It's me. It's Tay." And her sister started crying immediately. She said, "Sister, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Her sister was crying. She said, "Baby, I'm sorry for what I did to you." She said, "I should have let you come live with me." She said, "I'm sorry. I've been waiting on your call for 10 years. She said, "I tried to find you. I couldn't find you. I went to John's house. I couldn't find you. I went to Mama's house. I couldn't find you." She said, "I tried to look for you." And Tay said, "It's okay, Shay. I forgive you. It's your first time." And Shay said, "What you mean it's my first time? You my one and only sister." She said, "Shay, we only live once. This your first time living on this earth. You gonna make mistakes, but it'll get better the more you practice it." And her sister started crying. She couldn't believe it. She was like, "Oh my God, you have no idea how better I feel knowing that I'm talking to you, knowing that you okay, knowing that you forgive me." And her sister stayed on the phone for like 3 hours talking. They called up, they told everybody, they was telling each other what's been going on in their life. And they talked for 3 hours. And she said, "I want you to come to my house. I'm having to get together this weekend, this Friday. Mom's gonna be there, Dad's gonna be there. And she said, I want you to meet my daughter. And I want my daughter to meet her cousins." And she said, "Tay, I will be there. I will be there. And if you need something from me before then, you call my phone, sister." And to this day, her and her sister is tight like glue. They inseparable. Now, her mama still toxic as she can be because her mama ain't going to change. And her dad is still hanging in there. And her dad called her phone every single morning. And every morning that Tay answered that phone, he said, "Hey, baby, I'm better at it today. Do you need anything from your daddy?"